I'm joined right now by Professor Adam Dixon from the Adam Smith Chair and Director of Panmure House in Edinburgh. Professor, thank you for taking the time out and joining us this evening. When you're looking at the developments, fast-paced developments around the world, there is an economic cost to it, there is a human cost to it. How do you see a possible end to this conflict? Do you see one at all?
So, I mean, obviously, like with any conflict, there are many risks and there are many unknowns. I think it's clear that the Americans and the Israelis and many other militaries will continue to attack Iran. But that I think also you'll see allies come together to ensure that trade routes are open and that alternative routes to shipping are open so that the world economy does not contract too much. What I would say is that markets in general, most investors would have been paying attention to this in the weeks running up. And so I think markets have priced many of these risks. And so what we're seeing is the volatility, but I don't see any longer term risks going forward.
You're saying you don't see in the long term risk going forward, because at least with the kind of indication we've gotten from Israel, from America, is the fact that this is going to continue at least for many, many days, if not over a month. Now, the Strait of Hormuz is shut, where oil is concerned. America is going to be impacted. There will be allies of Iran that have already stepped in, while Chinese tankers are allowed to pass. But there are going to be impounding economic compulsions. Do you see that happening?
So again, I think over the long term, so I'm thinking over several months, I think this will subside. I think over the next coming weeks, there'll be lots of volatility in both commodity markets and global equity markets. However, I think that the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, will come together to ensure that shipping is allowed through the Strait of Hormuz. We've already seen that the Iranian Navy has been seriously depleted. And we also know that Saudi Arabia is transferring oil exports via the Red Sea. And we should also keep in mind that the Gulf is not the only part of the world that produces oil. I mean, for India, for example, there's different sources from Malaysia and other parts of Southeast Asia. There obviously will be a cost to this. This will drive up inflation across the globe. But at the same time, I think we have to step back and ask, how significant has Iran been in the global economy? And because of the sanctions over so many years, Iran's place has actually been quite insignificant. So the global economy as a whole should be able to withstand this conflict.
You know, it's an interesting contrarian point of view, Professor, than what most, are actually coming forth with. So you actually see this, that, or read it as economic compulsions, or the economic ramifications of this war will not be crucial in putting an end to this war. That's not going to be the fact.
No. Yeah, so if your question is, will Israel and the United States stop its actions because of concerns over the global economy? I don't think so. I think they have been very clear that they are committed to, if you like, regime change. I think that is, or some kind of change in Iran. And they will continue until Iran's military assets are significantly depleted. And that will have some economic disruptions. But I don't think pressure on the global economy will be such to change Trump or Netanyahu's or other allies that are getting involved in the conflict to stop.
Professor Dixon, thank you for taking the time out and joining us. An interesting point of view. Thank you, for joining us this evening.